And how have you been since you like you said you went and you don't do he's clean, he's like you stopped doing all that shit. How is that just like stop cold turkey and like to be around people, especially like Warped Tour? It's not a drug fest. I'm saying people are drinking and how do you keep your mind like good when you're around like shit like that and not slip up? You know what I mean?
Well, I
Like,
mean, I went to detox and stuff, and music care is paid for and stuff, and it's like a lot of those people are on the tour, and I just kind of got to think in my head, a lot of those people really care about me. They were behind me enough to pay for my detox and shit like that, and it's like those are people I don't want to let down, and those are just things I realized in detox and just, like I said, growing up.
growing up, dude.
Growing
And it's
up,
sick
man.
to hear it because this guy has a fucking amazing voice.
Now, after the Warped Tour, Dance Gavin Dance were supposed to embark on a fall headlining tour, which was called the Go Big or Go Home tour. Now, the tour had been fully booked. There was a bunch of hype building for the tour amidst the fan base and the scene, until randomly and completely abruptly on October 19th, 2011, it had been reported that Dance Gavin Dance had canceled the whole tour. And it was all pretty mysterious and vague until it was soon revealed a couple days later that the reason for the cancellation of this tour was because Jonny Craig had gotten arrested on drug-related charges. Content warning. This video contains frequent mentions and descriptions of sensitive subjects such as hard drug use as well as sexual assault. Yo, 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 what up? It is the cozy representative here, or the editing representative, as it were, the future representative, as I am now editing this. So basically, I filmed parts 2 and 3 all at the same time, so it kind of just jumps in here at the beginning, and we're picking him back up right where we left off. Jonny had just gotten arrested on drug charges, and Dance Gavin Dance canceled their fall tour. So this was we're jumping in right after I had just read that interview with Will Swan, which is where the part 2 video ended. Thought I would just say that, just so you know, because as I said, I filmed it all at once, so it kind of just jumps right in. So this is right after that Will Swan interview. Here we go. So, pretty fucking crazy, right? I remember, as a pretty big fan of Dance Gavin Dance during this time period back in the day, watching all of Jonny Craig's drug-related drama unfold in real time and watching these articles come out and wondering what was gonna happen next. All this craziness, and also the aspect of watching Dance Gavin Dance and their members being completely unsure of their fate as a band. It was interesting, thrilling and also pretty depressing and frustrating as well from the perspective of the fans. Anyways, after the cancellation of this tour, oh man, you know how sometimes people say the phrase, this is gonna get worse before it gets better? Well, as far as the situation that Jonny Craig had gotten himself into in the latter half of 2011, it only continued to get, if you can believe it, even more crazy and even more dark and even more controversial once February of 2012 had rolled around. It's astounding looking back at what a lightning rod for controversy Jonny Craig was around this time. Anyways, basically on February 8th of 2012, an anonymous Tumblr account called whatarehappens.tumblr.com posted actual candid photos of Jonny using heroin. He's sitting down with a spoon and a needle shooting heroin, as well as an accompanying blog post basically explaining Jonny's current situation. Now, apparently this blog post was written by someone and posted by someone who knew Jonny personally and had spent a lot of time and money trying to help Jonny out of his rough situation, but to no avail. And seemingly posting this anonymous blog post basically showing the world and all of Jonny's fans the unexposed truth about Jonny was the only way that this person felt they could possibly get through to Jonny at this point. It was kind of like a last-ditch effort for them, a last resort, so to speak. Now, I'm not going to show the photos from this blog of Jonny using heroin because they are quite graphic and just kind of dark, and you can definitely find them on your own on Google if you want. They're out there, but what I am going to read to you is the accompanying blog post that was also posted on this Tumblr, and to put it bluntly, this shit is dark and is, like, real as fuck. So here it goes. The blog states the following. So first it shows one of the pictures, and then it says, Jonny Craig using heroin. I know him personally. It's February 2012, and he's still using his fans to get drug money. What a piece of shit. Jonny doesn't deserve what he's been given. Please give your time and support to musicians who actually care about their fans. There are many musicians out there who do. Sadly, after getting to know Jonny on a personal level, he does not. And then this is another post that was posted after, I think a day later, onto this Tumblr. And this one has a video of Jonny shooting heroin. This is the accompanying blog post with it. For those who doubted this was Jonny, this is straight from my phone, no bullshit. You can see his DGD tat on his side and his money over bitches tattoo on his chest. I'm releasing this because I'm legitimately angry with Jonny, and I feel like people need to know what is really going on. I personally lost all respect for him after he told me the only thing he regretted from the MacBook scandal was, quote, getting caught. This is only the beginning. I'll be releasing many more pictures and actual video of him talking about his scams. Rise Records has dropped him as a solo artist. Check and see for yourself. I guess I'll be the first to announce that Jonny has been kicked out of Dance Gavin Dance yet again. It hasn't been officially announced as they are trying to fill his spot, likely Matt Geisy. He, Jonny, will not be on their upcoming tour with A Lot Like Birds. And then they updated the blog even further to say this. I know all this information because I worked with him in the recent past and I've gotten to know him on a personal level. I have Facebook messages, text messages, etc. to prove all my claims. What I posted on my Tumblr is info that came straight out of Jonny's mouth. I've spent so much time, money, and effort trying to help him, and all he's done is fuck me over. And admit to fucking over other fans in the process. I just feel like it's time people see the truth and what's really going on, and that Jonny gets what he deserves. Thanks. Fucking crazy fucking shit, am I right? So, naturally, as you can imagine, this Tumblr post and its contents began to make the rounds throughout the scene and stirred up quite a bit of new controversy. Also, as you can imagine, news sites within the scene began publishing articles with headlines stating that Jonny was no longer in Dance Gavin Dance, that he was kicked out of Dance Gavin Dance because that's what was stated in the Tumblr blog. As far as everybody knew, he was no longer on Rise Records and no longer in Dance Gavin Dance. Now, interestingly enough, not long after all this shit was hitting the internet, Dance Gavin Dance finally released an official statement to their social media accounts addressing their side of the situation. They stated the following. As some of you have heard today, Jonny Craig will not be doing the upcoming tour with Dance Gavin Dance. Jonny is very sick right now and needs to do what he can to get better. Being on the road is no place for someone in his position right now. He needs to focus on fixing himself. He has not been kicked out of Dance Gavin Dance, but we cannot tour with him in the current state he is in. We still want to continue being productive and playing music that we have so much passion for, which is why we decided to continue with the tour without Jonny. We love Jonny, and we hope that Jonny can do what he can to get better, because we have done everything that we can to try to get him clean. For this upcoming tour with A Lot Like Birds, we will be joined by Kurt Travis and Matt Geisy to fill in on vocals. We will be doing something that we've never done before, and that's performing songs from all 4 full lengths. For the time being, keep your eyes peeled and your ears peaked for new secret band music. See you all out on the road, and make sure to come up and say hi to us at the merch table. So, there you have it. Despite all that was going on, Dance Gavin Dance's post definitely provided some clarity. From their point of view, Jonny was still a member of Dance Gavin Dance, but needed to take care of whatever he needed to take care of, get clean, get sober, get healthy, before he could return to touring with the band. It makes sense. To me, I really gotta say though, it's really amazing how Dance Gavin Dance continued to still hang on to Jonny at this point, and still give him so many second chances despite everything he had done up to that point, and everything he had put the other members of Dance Gavin Dance through. Look, I get the idea that they were trying to help their homie get clean and get off drugs and get his life together, because ultimately they cared about him deep down as a human being, you know? Plus, at that point, they knew how well their band did with Jonny, how great the music was, and how it was always hype city whenever Jonny was their singer. You know, the tours were bigger, the CDs sold more, and they've already gone through enough shit as a band, so it's easier for them to just have him with the original lineup, and that's Dance Gavin Dance. You know, from I guess a business standpoint, you know, I get that. But either way, you know, after the MacBook situation and just the fact that the truth about what a real scumbag Jonny had the tendency of being had been fully exposed at this point, honestly has me kind of side-eyeing the members of Dance Gavin Dance a little bit for still trying to hold on to Jonny. I mean, definitely they knew more than anybody knew at that point what kind of person Jonny really was underneath it all, right? And what this dude was, like, capable of. They knew him better than anybody. They're the ones going on tour with him and spending so much time around him in such close quarters. I don't know, it's a little suspect to me why they were trying to kind of harbor this dude and keep this dude around when he has proven himself to be an out-of-control hard drug addict, and a lot of the times just a selfish, careless asshole to everyone around him. Why would they want this dude around their fans? Why would they want to expose this guy to their fan base around the world when he's been caught manipulating the fan base and scamming the fan base out of money? I would if I was in a band and someone was doing that, I'd be like, no way am I touring with this person ever again. I don't want to bring them into my environment and, you know, put them in situations where they might do that again, where they might treat the fans like that again. It wouldn't be... I wouldn't want that. I don't know. It's questionable. You know, there's levels to this and different angles you can look at it from, but either way, I don't know, man. Dance Gavin Dance are still one of my favorite bands, and I still love them regardless. People do weird things sometimes, and maybe they really did just want to see Jonny get clean and get healthy, and maybe they felt that just kicking him to the curb wouldn't help the situation in any way. You know, situations like this are tricky in general. No one really knows what to do, you know, especially this one. There's a lot of weird... It's strange. Maybe they really did just care about him and wanted to see him get better. I don't know. Either way, Dance Gavin Dance subsequently went out on their tour without Jonny in early 2012, with Kurt Travis joining them singing his Dance Gavin Dance songs, as well as Matt Geisy, former vocalist of the amazing, incredibly, criminally underrated San Diego post-hardcore band Lower Definition, singing Jonny's songs with them. Check out some footage from one of the shows on this tour. It's pretty badass.
We are to
So, following that tour, the next few months, things were surprisingly pretty quiet when it came to Jonny Craig news. No one really knew where he was at, what was going on with him. It was, pretty quiet until July of 2012 rolled along, and this issue of Alternative Press with our man, yes, JC, on the cover, hit the newsstands. Why is he on the cover of AP, you ask? Well, they did this whole cover story on him, where it's basically this really long interview with him, and the crux of it is basically that Jonny has spent the last few months in rehab, in a real rehab facility, not just a 7-day detox or whatever. He legitimately went to rehab, and had been clean for a few months, and he was getting his shit together. It's this whole expose piece about he's basically like, yeah, I was an asshole. I was crazy. I was walking around being an asshole all the time. I don't know why. I just wanted to be the biggest piece of shit all the time, and now I did rehab. I'm doing well. I get up at 7 a.m. every day and, make my bed, and I'm doing all these sober activities, sober living, and going to meetings and all that, and it generally presented him as, genuinely getting his shit together. It was pretty surprising. You've been in treatment before. What was different this time? After that MacBook shit, it was, you gotta get help, you gotta get help. I wasn't resisting it, but I didn't really want to go. They were like, just do a detox program, so I did 7 or 8 days in detox, and then I hit the road again, and within 3 months, I'd relapsed. Going right back on the road, it was hard. Everyone was drinking and shit, and I was like, I got this, I can handle it again. Everything's blown over, I can do it. And I kind of just went right back into it. This time, I wanted to actually take it seriously. I've seen what I can do getting high and ripping people off. I've seen that aspect of my life, and I want to see what I can do clean. I want to see how far I can take it being an actual person and having real feelings and not just trying to fucking stick a needle in my arm all the time to suppress them. For some reason, I wanted to walk around like the biggest piece of shit on the planet. I thought that was cool, and I have no idea why, honestly. Seeing the gratification I get from being sober, how much happier I am, now when kids hit me up like, oh, you saved my life, I actually can say something back. Before I'd just be like, oh, cool, thanks, but now I can actually see where they're coming from and understand it a little bit more. I feel good knowing I'm a role model now, instead of fucking trying to act like I never wanted it. Also, my favorite thing about this article is they included all these, really corny pictures of him wearing nice clothes at the beach. You know what I mean? He's turning over a new leaf. He's, reflecting on his past, standing at that chair in those white pants at the beach with the birds flying by, trying to make him look all pensive and deep. I don't know. It's funny to me. But, yeah, apparently, this came out. Apparently Jonny was doing well. And apparently the people at Alternative Press were anticipating his subsequent sober return to music. So after the release of this Alternative Press cover story, in August of 2012, Dance Gavin Dance embarked on a series of tour dates on that summer's All-Stars tour with Jonny Craig at the helm for the first time since he got out of rehab. Now, these tour dates were basically meant to serve as somewhat of a test to see if Jonny was actually clean and actually sober, and if he was, sticking to a program, etc., and whether or not the rock and roll touring environment was actually a healthy place for the newly clean and sober Jonny Craig. They were giving him a shot to see if he could actually hang and actually function as their singer again. And unfortunately, this may come as no surprise, but guess what? Jonny Craig failed this test. But it is important to note that it wasn't because of drugs. Jonny actually was clean and sober on this tour. Drug use, for once, wasn't the issue. Okay, so here's how it basically went down. August 13th of 2012, an article was posted on Alt Press, which was titled, Jonny Craig allegedly not performing remaining All-Stars tour dates with Dance Gavin Dance. After a series of tweets yesterday, Dance Gavin Dance vocalist Jonny Craig has stated he will not be performing with the band for the remaining dates of the All-Stars tour. Instead, the band will perform as their side project, Secret Band. We have reached out to Jonny's team for comment on the matter and will keep you updated as we receive a statement. And then there's a series of 3 tweets from Jonny, all on August 12th. The first one says, sorry guys, I won't be on any more All-Stars dates. DGD is doing Secret Band shit for the rest of the tour. Go check it out. It's not important why I'm not on All-Stars. What is important is that it had nothing to do with drugs or booze. Alright. Following that, there was also this article posted on the PRP News. Dance Gavin Dance's Jonny Craig reportedly ejected from All-Stars Tour. Dance Gavin Dance vocalist Jonny Craig is ejected from the All-Stars Tour. While details are scarce, his antics were enough for tour organizer Ash Avildsen, who is, I believe he owns Sumerian Records, to publicly call him out on Twitter last night with the following tweet. So this is from Ash, Sumerian Records owner. At Jonny Craig, yo, you drug addict, low-class thief. You have 5 minutes to apologize to everyone you have wronged on the All-Stars Tour or you're gone. Whoa. And then I guess after that, Jonny tweeted his tweets, which I just read, as well as these following tweets. Good luck with all that. I don't have any hate towards anyone, smiley face. I'm going to get into my bed and sleep, and when I wake up, everything will work itself out. And if it doesn't, it's not the end of the world. Shit happens and I'm here to sing. Get with the program. The article states, meanwhile, it appears that Suicide Silence's Dan Kenny is also involved, as he tweeted the following to Ash Avildsen today. At Ash, sorry for all this crap. My knee is shot, but I know Mr. Craig did not do it on purpose. He is just a butthole by default. And then, after those series of confusing tweets, which if you are confused by those, because I know that was a little unclear, I am going to show an interview with John Mess after I read this article where he's going to explain that, and it's going to make sense. But, before that, after all these tweets and everything, and Jonny was not on the All-Stars Tour, and Secret Band, Dance Gavin Dance's side project, played it instead, on August 21st of 2012, an article was posted on Dead Press news publication. News! Jonny Craig kicked out of Dance Gavin Dance. Holy shit. The article stated the following. It seems that the revolving door antics of Dance Gavin Dance singer Jonny Craig has reared its head in again. News of this broke out last night after a series of tweets from the now former frontman, all of which can be seen below in chronological order. These are quotes from Jonny on Twitter. DGD wants to go harder, and I don't, so they have found another singer. The All-Stars Tour shit just kinda rushed what was gonna happen anyway. It was just time to go another way. I love the dudes in the band, but I feel I'm made for more than what I've been doing. I respect DGD and whatever they do. It's better this way. Trust me, folks. I'm sure whoever they get will sing my songs perfectly. And then the band, Dance Gavin Dance themselves, also confirmed it on their social media. Here's what they posted. Quote, when Jonny rejoined DGD, we were about to call it quits. Tired of touring and being away from home for 8 months of the year, we wanted to shake things up. We thought it'd be fun to do a Downtown Battle Mountain sequel with Jonny and go out on that. We recorded Downtown Battle Mountain 2 and felt it would be a disservice to our fans not to let them hear the new record live. We did a tour and felt rejuvenated, but Jonny wasn't in a good place. After trying to convince him into getting help over Warped Tour, we canceled the headliner in November and December of 2011 and told him we wouldn't tour until he sought out real help for his addiction. We had Mount Geisy fill in while Jonny was in rehab. He was released and wanted to be out on the road immediately. We weren't sure how things would go, so we only booked a small portion of the All-Stars Tour to see if Jonny could still function as our lead singer. After a week and a half, things were not going well. Everything came to a head when Jonny was publicly scolded by the owner of Sumerian Records for multiple offenses. It was then that we realized that our time with Jonny had reached its end. We wish Jonny best in his future endeavors, but he will no longer be a part of DGD. We, however, will continue playing and writing music because it's what we love doing. Crazy. Now, I will say that, this second permanent split from Jonny Craig was definitely a long time coming. Like I was mentioning earlier, I think it was weird and questionable why they were trying to hang on to him while he was obviously going through so much turmoil and hard drug addiction and getting in trouble with the law. So anyways, yeah, August 2012, Jonny Craig kicked out of Dance Gavin Dance once again. Both of his tenures in Dance Gavin Dance were obviously filled with so much turmoil and drug use and drama and craziness. But anyways, going back to him being kicked off of All-Stars tour. Now, what was going on with that? So it wasn't the drugs. What was the deal with the suicide silence guy and his knee? And how did that lead to Jonny leaving the tour and being kicked out of Dance Gavin Dance? All valid questions, I know. Here is a clip of an interview from John Mess right around this time where he talked more in detail about what happened on that tour and what happened with Jonny. So take it away, John Mess. Answer our questions, brother. Take it away.
So can you clarify what happened with Jonny on the All-Stars tour?
Yeah. Basically what happened was, there's a bunch of different incidents where other people felt they were being annoyed or pestered by Jonny. But the main incident was the bass player in Suicide Silence was stretching or warming up. I wasn't there, so I didn't see this directly, but this is what I was told. And then Jonny tends to kind of get physical with people, kind of like male flirtatious, like grabby and touchy. And so you went up behind him or something and pushed him, grabbed him in some way. And the guy ended up dislocating his knee. So Suicide Silence was not really, I don't know, just too stoked on him anyway. So they told us that we need to get him off the tour, or we're kicked off the tour. And then a bunch of stuff ensued with the guy who runs Sumerian Ash, and a lot of his bands are on the tour. I'm not sure if it was his tour or how it worked out, but basically he had a big role in the tour. And he started talking to Jonny on Twitter and telling him, like, you're off this tour, and then they sort of made up, but then the production here. Yeah, the production or management, Suicide's people came to us and were like, well, you guys can continue on the tour without him. You can find a replacement, or you can do it without him. What do you want to do? Well, and then we suggested, we want to do it as our side project, Secret Band, and they're like, well, you can get a pay cut. We'll cut your guarantee a little, but you can still play all the shows. We're like, that's fine. And then after we decided that, then we were told, well, Jonny actually can stay on if he doesn't mess up again. And then Jonny had expressed he didn't really want to be on the tour at all. Like, he didn't like playing with us. Like, a bunch of different internal issues of his gripes and complaints about where he was with the band and expressing his solo album interest to go do that. So we just said, well, you know what, why don't you just go home then and go do what you want to do. If you don't want to be in this, we're not really enjoying your company right now either. So we parted ways and then finished the tour out as our side project, Secret Band, and everything went well, and it was great.
So there you have it, straight from the horse's mouth. And also, Jonny's tenure with DGD is now over. This is not a Dance Gavin Dance video. This is a Jonny Craig video, so I'm not going to be talking about Dance Gavin Dance anymore. But in case you're wondering, they then had Tillian Pearson, who used to sing for a band called Tides of Man, who used to, and I forgot to mention this in my part 1 video, but Tillian and Tides of Man were, in fact, the backup band for at least a few shows back in 2009 for Jonny's solo set, for his solo live band, when A Dream is a Question, You Don't Know How to Answer came out. So you can see a young emo baby Tillian playing behind Jonny back in the day. But yeah, Tillian was the vocalist of Tides of Man. After Jonny left Dance Gavin Dance the second time, Tillian Pearson became the vocalist, and if anyone doesn't know, they have been releasing great records, possibly some of their best stuff ever. I mean, debatable. All their stuff is really great. There's not a Dance Gavin Dance record that I don't love. But basically, yeah, they're with Tillian Pearson now. They've been with him for a really long time, and they're killing it. They're bigger in popularity than they've ever been, than they ever were with Jonny, or at any point before. They're absolutely murdering the game with Tillian, and they've been making great records ever since. So, hats off to you, Dance Gavin Dance, for not throwing in the towel, even though that's a band that it's very surprising that they're still around. There are so many instances where they could have and definitely probably seriously considered calling it quits. They've been through more turmoil than almost any band that I can think of, and, they're still around, and they stuck it out, and they're somehow bigger and better than ever before. So that's awesome for them. But anyways, back to the Jonny Craig story. So, following his second split with DGD in 2012, Jonny re-emerged in 2013 with a new look, a new image, a new sound, a new style, as well as seemingly a new positive, clear-headed outlook on things, as well as a determination to reinvent himself as an artist and as a persona in the scene. Now, before we get more into Jonny's music and career and whatnot during this time, I just have to preface this by pointing out that Jonny really was looking good around this time, honestly. He was looking healthy, he was looking put together, he didn't have that, hazy, drugged out, drunken, dazed look in his eye that he had always had before. He was looking well. He kind of was looking like a new man, seriously. I really do think that he was clean from drugs during this time and was taking that seriously. He also, and I will be showing some interview clips so you can get an idea too, but he also seemed a lot happier during this time, and he seemed to be in a pretty good mood, which he wasn't always back in the day. He also generally seems a lot more clear-headed when he talked, a lot more focused, and a little more humble and down-to-earth with the way he would present himself and talk about things, less cocky and I'm the shit, fuck you kind of attitude. It really seems like he was doing well mentally, and surprisingly was in a really good place mentally and physically around this time in 2013.
Now, cool. Now that you're, doing your solo thing, where do you see your career going? Like, do you see yourself, going on tour with more mainstream radio artists, or do you see yourself still like touring with the same scene?
I think I'm just gonna roll with it, man. I'm not gonna say that I obviously don't want to be on tour with people, mainstream and radio artists, but I'm just gonna take it a day at a time and just keep doing what we're doing. We're finally starting to build an identity for me, moving past all the bullshit. We're finally starting to get an identity, and I think that is what our main focus is right now. And we're just gonna take it day to day. Hopefully, we'll get some good offers, and if not, we're just gonna keep doing what we're doing. And I'm gonna stay out here, man. I'm gonna keep myself relevant.
Now, and how different is your music now from previously when you were first doing your solo stuff?
I mean, I wouldn't say it's like completely different. I've always wanted to be an R&B singer and stuff, and I'm not necessarily just focusing on wanting to be like R&B tracks now. A lot of people are like, oh, he's R&B now, I don't like it. It's just I'm singing more of what I've always wanted to sing on, like being in bands and stuff. You kind of got to compromise with people and just sing with what was given to me. Yeah. Now I actually get to pick what I'm singing. I get to write what I'm singing on, so it's definitely more me. Like I said, we're building the identity, so it's definitely more me.
And what are some of the lessons that you learned from the MacBook situation?
There's a lot of lessons I learned from that. I learned how strong my fan base is, just by the fact that some of the people I ripped off in the MacBook thing actually donated to my Indiegogo campaign, and I just learned that people can change. People can actually better themselves if they put their fucking mind to it. So, and that's definitely one of the most things I learned from it is the fact that I can take everything I've done wrong in my life, take every mistake I've ever made, and still better myself and show people that, and they will literally follow me just because of that, because they see the progression I want to make. They see the person I want to be. They can see the person who I am deep down inside, and I think that's what I learned the most, man, out of that.
Anyways, onto the music. Jonny basically re-emerged, embodying the persona of just being a full-on solo R&B artist, making music similar to the style of, say, The Weeknd, with the intention of breaking free from the Warped Tour post-hardcore scene he had always been a part of and always been associated with, and break into the R&B world with the possibility of maybe even trying to tour with some mainstream pop or R&B acts and get some songs on Top 40 radio, maybe. So he also started dropping some new songs in the spring and summer of 2013, just individual singles that he put out online, and I actually really like this era of Jonny's solo career. Like I said, it's not as great as his older stuff, but I've always really liked the vibe of the singles that he was dropping around this time. He dropped a song called Nobody Ever Will, which was a sexual, sensual, mid-tempo, straight-up R&B track. I've always really enjoyed this one. There was also an upbeat, more rock-influenced track called House of War. Now, the mix on this song is pretty bad, if you ask me. It sounds a bit unfinished on the production side of things, which hinders it a little bit, but the song itself is really great, if you ask me. Very driving, and I love the chorus on this one. It's very strong. Jonny also released probably one of his most meaningful and emotional, one of his most personal and deep songs he's ever made during this time, a beautiful acoustic track called Rhythm in My Soul, where he goes pretty in-depth lyrically on the dark sides of his heroin addiction, as well as his desperation to break free from his addiction. For the first time in his entire career, we're hearing Jonny really bare his soul in his lyrics like we never have before. Obviously, he's always delivered very emotional and soulful vocal performances before, but up until now, his lyrics have either consisted of just random phrases that he seemingly just kind of pulled out of his ass, or on specifically Dance Gavin Dance's older material, literal gibberish. Like, he's saying actual, like, not words. Like, there weren't actual words coming out of his mouth. There were just syllables and noises. Gibberish was coming out of his mouth in a drugged out haze. But being the strange cartoon character-like man that Jonny Craig is, it still came out sounding beautiful and soulful, which gave it its meaning. How beautiful he made gibberish sound, made it sound like it had all this depth and meaning, but a lot of times he wasn't even singing actual fucking words. He could sing the phone book, as they say. Anyways, but that's why I've always loved these 3 singles that Jonny dropped in the summer of 2013, specifically Rhythm in My Soul, because for the first time he's singing real words with real meaning, real put-together songs where he's talking about his actual life and his actual experiences, and he's getting deep with it, with the harsh, dark times that he's been through and his addictions and whatnot.
Cold sweat, goosebumps, my insomnia has come out to play. My depression's at the door. Suicidal tendencies, they're begging for more. Banging away, trying to get in, but my body aches. I can feel you in my veins, girl. Baby, I'm feeling for you.
So, following this comeback, so to speak, as well as the release of these singles in earlier 2013, he then dropped a 7-song EP on September 24th of 2013 called Find What You Love and Let It Kill You, which he self-released without the help of a label, aided by the funding of an Indiegogo campaign, so his fans donated money to help Jonny pay for the making of this EP. I don't know who thought it would be a good idea to send money to Jonny Craig over the internet in 2013, but like I said, it seems like the man was trying to reinvent himself, and as far as I know, he actually did use this crowdfunded money to actually pay for the EP, so that's a good thing. Anyways, this EP. Now, I gotta say, despite how much I really did enjoy the singles he put out earlier in that year, prior to this EP, I remember when this EP came out, I was a little bit let down by it. It kind of felt a little underwhelming. And that's kind of how I think of this EP as a whole. It's fine. It's not bad, but it's not amazing by any means. It's not very urgent. It's a little undercooked, you know what I mean? It's just alright. There's cool moments for sure, and Jonny's voice does sound great on it, but overall, just kind of meh. As opposed to the variety that he was bringing to the table with the different musical styles of the singles he put out prior, on this EP he pretty much goes full on The Weeknd throughout the whole thing, but nowhere near as good as The Weeknd. This EP is kind of like watered down, mediocre white boy The Weeknd. You know, very chill, low-key R&B. Like I said, it's not bad, but besides the lead single, I Still Feel Her Part 5, which I do think is a pretty dope song.
It's a tug of war between what's comfortable and what she really wants. I know you're guilty, I know you're guilty, I know you still need help.
And like maybe the track The Lives We Live, which is alright. Nothing about this EP is really all that stand out or all that interesting. It's not very hooky or catchy. There aren't a whole lot of standout choruses or melodies going on or anything. It all kind of blends together a little bit. It's kind of the opposite of what the singles that came out prior to this EP were. Those singles were like totally catchy, totally memorable, totally standout, great choruses, lots of variety. And it sounds like a lot of work was put into the songwriting aspect of them. This EP, on the other hand, is kind of the opposite of all that. It just kind of falls a bit flat, if you ask me. I will tell you that for me as a fan following him throughout the years, this EP, Find What You Love and Let It Kill You, was the first thing Jonny Craig ever released in his entire career that I was ever like properly disappointed by. I was super excited for this EP at the time because I absolutely loved everything Jonny had ever put out beforehand. I was definitely a little Jonny Craig fanboy back in high school, but I definitely remember listening to this EP and just being like, not loving it. And I still kind of feel that way. I definitely think that these songs, as well as a lot of Jonny Craig's work throughout the years, show that while he is a great singer, he isn't always the best songwriter. Anyways, despite my personal lukewarm reaction to the Find What You Love and Let It Kill You EP, Jonny spent most of 2013 on tour, taking his new solo music on the road. And let me tell you, probably the best thing about the new, improved, rejuvenated 2013 Jonny was his live show from around this time. Dude was absolutely murdering it live. He was crushing it at these solo shows. He had always been a great live vocalist, but he had never really sounded this good live before. Now that he was sober and actually like focusing on his craft and his performance, not just like, you know, popping a Xanax or whatever the fuck, and like he was actually focusing 100% on the singing, and it showed. It was amazing. Now, before I show you some clips of Jonny absolutely ripping it up on stage, I do gotta point out something really cool. For a brief period in 2013, Will Sowers, who played bass in Emarosa, Jonny's old band, was playing bass for Jonny as part of his live band around this time. I think that this is really cool and like really sweet for some reason. It's kind of heartwarming. It pulls on my heartstrings a little bit, seeing him on stage with a member of Emarosa again. Anyways, check out some clips of the new, improved Jonny ripping it up on stage during this era. This might have been his best era ever when it came to his live vocals, if you ask me.
You're the reason, you're the reason, you're the reason why I run. You got it, you got it. Tell me you're the one, and I got it. Tell me that I won. In my eyes, the rose by the sun. You're the reason why we run.
Now, moving on. So if you were me in late 2013, early 2014, a young 17-year-old Julian, the next thing you were expecting from Jonny Craig was a solo full-length. I mean, that's what he had basically been teasing. Despite being, you know, a little disappointed with his 2013 EP, I was still a fan and still excited to see where his career was gonna go, and I kind of assumed that a full-length was coming. Hopefully featuring songs like those singles he released that I keep bringing up, Nobody Ever Will, House of War, etc., etc. I was hoping for a full-length either featuring songs similar to those, or even featuring those actual songs themselves with other songs like those. I was stoked. A strong full length with lots of variety, lots of great standout tracks, and lots of new musical ground covered for Jonny Craig. I figured he was going to keep going on this rejuvenated new solo R&B path, and I was actually pretty excited to keep following him and see where it was going to go. Was he really going to break out of the Warped Tour post-hardcore scene? Maybe this more marketable, universal music he was making was actually going to break into the mainstream for a little bit. Who knows? But then, in 2014, Jonny pretty much did the exact opposite of what he was talking about doing in 2013, and yes, to my surprise, he started another band, another Warped Tour, post-hardcore, metalcore styled band. Say it with me. Slaves. Now, I guess Jonny's plan to break out of the Warped Tour scene and do it on his own didn't really work out, I guess. He wasn't ending his solo career around this time, but Slaves did pick up a lot of hype pretty quickly within the scene and seemingly pretty much just became his main focus once 2014 rolled around. Now, okay, Slaves. I've honestly never really been the biggest fan of Slaves. I know they have their fans, you know, they're a pretty big band, I guess. But they've just never really been my cup of tea, musically. I don't know. I don't think it's anywhere near Jonny Craig's best work as a musician, and I don't know, just never really been into that band. There's like a handful of songs by them that I've liked throughout the years, you know what I mean? Every time a new Slaves album comes out, there's always like 2 or 3 songs from it that I think are good, but then that's about it. I've never, like, really been that into an entire Slaves album before. Either way, Slaves, whose lineup at the time featured main songwriter Alex Lyman on guitar, who used to be in a very 2012-sounding metalcore band on Artery Recordings called Hearts and Hands, who that band had actually opened up for Jonny on one of his 2013 solo tours, which is where he and Alex met. The band also featured Ty Wright on drums, who used to be in the band Four Letter Lie and was also briefly in the band Drugs as well.
And now a lot has changed since the last time we spoke, probably about a year ago. At the time you were working on a solo project, you seemed quite content working on your own, but now you've rejoined a band. Hello. So what made you want to do that? Start, you know, outside of your solo project?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still working on my solo stuff. Mm-hmm. You know, I love my solo music. That hasn't changed. None of the stuff that we talked about has changed. It just it kind of struck me as time to you know, get back into something else, and you know, put a lot of, you know, the stuff that I was just kind of putting aside and actually put it to work and put it to justice. So, you know, I brought everyone out. I brought Chris out. I brought all the dudes out, and you know, we put together a team, and the band is going great right now. Good to hear.
Good to hear. And you know, you're saying it's going so great, but you were in a couple past bands that, hate to say it, but weren't quite the smoothest for you. So what makes this lineup different? What's so great about this group of people?
I was able to choose everyone in this band. I was able to make sure that, you know, I got along with everyone, and they understood my vision of not only music and passion, but of my vision of success. And you know, they understand it wholeheartedly. And out of all the bands I've been in so far, this band, especially like people in it wise, is the best thing I've done so far. These dudes are 100% genuine, and you know, they've had my back since day one. They, without question, they moved to California, and you know, we've lived in a house ever since. And those dudes, they have my back since you know, since I asked them to come, and I knew that, you know, from that moment that this was gonna be it for me.
The band released their debut full-length record called Through Art We Are All Equals on June 24th, 2014 through Artery Recordings. Now, this album sees Jonny Craig going back to his post-hardcore roots, but unlike his previous bands Dance Gavin Dance or Emarosa, who took elements of sounds and styles that were popular in the post-hardcore and metalcore scene at the time and reimagined them in new, different, experimental, and unique ways, causing Jonny's old music and his old band bands to really stand out from the pack, both vocally and musically. This Slaves record, at least musically speaking, is in my opinion very generic and very basic compared to everything else that was going on in the scene when it came out around 2014, and also compared to Jonny's old, more experimental bands. I remember when this record came out, I thought it kind of sounded like a diet version of that band Issues. Like, I thought it sounded like the first Issues record, except watered down and boring, and with Jonny Craig's vocals over it, you know? It's basically just pretty straightforward, generic post-hardcore with the occasional genty chugging here and there, which was very trendy in 2014, hence the Issues comparison. Because of the kind of bland instrumentals on this thing, the only thing that is really standout or unique about it are Jonny's vocals, which are still great. He's still a great singer on this album, and he has lots of standout, powerful, emotional vocal performances on this thing, but for some reason it just doesn't feel like it's enough. It makes you realize that, although Jonny Craig is a very talented vocalist, he really sounds his best and really shines when he has an equally talented and unique group of musicians backing him. The missing ingredient that is the secret sauce to a great Jonny Craig record is a unique experimental band like Dance Gavin Dance or Emarosa backing him up. It's nowhere to be found on the Slaves record. It's like if you googled royalty-free 2014 post-hardcore instrumental type beat, royalty-free on YouTube, instrumental. Like, this is you'd get the instrumentals for this album. Which is why, to me, I think Slaves is far from his best work musically, and frankly has always felt like a... sorry, Jonny, but a washed-up former Warped Tour star trying his best, trying as desperately as he can to save face and stay relevant in the Warped Tour scene any way he can. That's like the epitome of Slaves to me. It's kind of why I've never really been into them. But anyway, as far as this record goes, throughout We Are All Equals, I mean, for me, there's about 2 songs on this record that I actually really like and think are, like, pretty good. Those songs are, and get a load of this song title, My Soul is Empty and Full of White Girls, which... yeah, I'll let that sink in. Has a great, hard-hitting, memorable chorus, and the provocative lyrics shine more light on Jonny coming clean about the dark sides of his hard drug addiction. The song's pretty powerful, honestly, and I've always been a fan of it. I've always liked it. The other song that I like a lot is the song Starving for Friends, featuring Vic Fuentes of Pierce the Veil, so a little almost Isles and Glaciers reunion there. This song really tugs at the heartstrings. It's real emotional. It's basically Jonny sounding very sorry about his past actions and controversies, notably probably the MacBook scandal, and basically putting it out there that he seemingly regrets what he's done and that he really misses his old friends and his old life. A heavy topic that anyone can relate to. Despite everything we know about Jonny, the emotion in this song almost has me feeling kind of bad for the guy. Other than that, The Fire Down Below is okay. Those Who Stand for Nothing Fall for Everything has some cool, creative vocal performances, but the rest of this record kind of just blends together for me and ultimately just kind of falls flat. The band then put out their second record, which was called Routine Breathing, about a year later on August 21st of 2015, also through Artery Recordings. On this record, the band definitely did get more dynamic and more interesting musically than what they had brought forth on the first record, and there are definitely more standout, memorable tracks on this record as well. I definitely like this record a lot better than the first one. My favorite song on this album definitely has to be the track Death Never Lets Us Say Goodbye. A very powerful song with a really fucking hard-hitting chorus on this one, and amazing heartfelt vocals from Jonny. This song actually has a very real and a very genuine message lyrically. It seems this song finds Jonny dealing with the death of a friend or a loved one and wondering why it couldn't have been him instead, seeing as it so easily could have, considering all the things Jonny has done in his life that easily could have already killed him, all the things he's put his body through and whatnot. It leaves Jonny wondering why exactly he's even still here on Earth. This song is great in my opinion. It fucking slaps. As far as the rest of this record, I mean, the up-tempo Drowning in My Addiction stands out to me. The song's pretty cool. It's a pretty fun, epic banger that shows some new, unexplored musical ground covered by Slaves. I also like a lot of Jonny's melodies and lyrics in this one. It's a cool song. Winter Everywhere is a nice acoustic track with a standout guest vocal from current Dance Gavin Dance vocalist Tillian Pearson, which is very cool to hear him and Jonny collab on this one. There's some other, relatively decent standout tracks on this thing with some memorable, well-executed choruses such as Burning Our Morals Away or Running Through the Six with My Soul, but other than that, much like the previous Slaves record, the rest of the songs just kind of ultimately blend together for me, and the whole thing kind of just falls flat. I don't know what it is, but something about the overall vibe and sound and style of the band Slaves as a whole has just ultimately never been my cup of tea. It's just not my thing. I don't know why. It's never grabbed me. Even though we do hear the band improving and evolving on this record, I still just have never really fucked with it. Maybe it's just a personal preference, but I don't know. It's not my bag. Anyways, following the release of the second Slaves record, Routine Breathing, Slaves went out on a stint on the 2015 Vans Warped Tour. And this, my friends, is where the next big Jonny Craig scandal takes place. Okay, so there was definitely a lot of media coverage on this situation at the time, but I'm going to be going off of this article posted on Stereogum, which was posted on July 20th of 2015, and the title of the article reads as follows: Slaves voted off Warped Tour for allegedly assaulting merch girl dumping sewage. Huh. Let's explore further into this, shall we? Slaves, not to be confused with the UK buzz band of the same name, are the current project of Jonny Craig. As Music Feeds points out, they've apparently been voted off the tour after a town hall meeting of Warped Tour performers in Columbia, Maryland. Warped Tour has yet to provide an official statement about Slaves' dismissal, but a document obtained by Lambgoat suggests that Craig drunkenly bullied and sexually harassed a female crew member named Colleen. Here's the document. And I guess this was given out to all the bands and crew who were on Warped Tour, like put on people's buses and shit, as like a mass message to everybody. Attention Vans Warped Tour. In the interest of honoring your input and involvement with the tour, a town hall meeting will be held in the amphitheater at 9:30 p.m. tomorrow. This meeting will be to vote on allowing or not allowing the band Slaves to rejoin the Vans Warped Tour or not under these 5 major stipulations. 1. A responsible member of the management team flies out to travel with the band. 2. Jonny makes a public apology to Colleen about his drunken behavior. 3. Jonny attends a meeting with a voice for the innocent about sexual harassment and bullying. 4. Jonny meets with Mike Farr each day for Music Cares. 5. The whole band attends a session on what an enabler is and how you all have been. Please show up to this town hall meeting, get your voice heard, blah blah blah. Other rumors indicate that Slaves were selling and or buying drugs at their merch table and dumping toxic sewage out of their tour bus. A statement posted on Slaves' Facebook page denies all these allegations and suggests that the band was voted off as a means of punishment because Craig, who has struggled with addiction, got drunk. So this is Slaves on their Facebook page. I'm going to keep this as short as I can. First, I'm going to address the rumors that are not true. There were not drugs involved, nor was anyone in our band looking to buy or sell drugs. There was no rape or any forceful sexual harassment. No woman was ever touched or even spoken to, just felt uncomfortable by our behavior. just felt uncomfortable by our behavior. That's interesting. We did not empty our non-existent sewage tank from our bus. Let me make it 100% clear that we are not continuing Warped Tour because we were voted off, because the opinions of certain people who believe that since Jonny drank, despite his success getting clean, will lead to his relapse. This band has been under a microscope for everything we have done. We have had to bite our tongue for every completely twisted story that hits the internet, and are now being called rapists for something the internet doesn't know about. All of this is because of what people have read about Jonny's past instead of what people know about who Jonny is. We aren't the people you have read about. If you would take the chance to get to know us, you would see that every situation isn't what you read of it online. Our first merch person was a very attractive girl whom remains to be our very good friend. You can read her statement here. That's weird. We stood by Jonny's side the last year, we stood by his side last night, and we will stand by his side this morning, because we know the truth. This is all we are going to say about the situation. Jonny Craig himself offered this statement to Lambgoat. I have zero problems admitting I drank, but I will not say I used drugs. Last night's meeting was a railroad about how I'm still high. I got drunk and treated our merch girl like she was one of the dudes, and I understand this was not respectful behavior, and I'm very sorry to Colleen, but this isn't worth all this. I don't think the word rape is funny, and I don't think anyone should just toss that around. I would never hurt anyone of the opposite sex. I'm sorry for breaking my streak of not drinking and have no problem picking right back up. I have spent a year putting my life back together with real change for once, and I don't deserve this. Neither do my band, who have done nothing but take care of me and picked me up time and time again. So basically the crux of this whole thing was that Jonny was drinking. I think that people on the Warped Tour, you know, Kevin Lyman and crew members and whatnot, and other bands were already kind of uncomfortable with the fact that Jonny was drinking, and apparently not using, but he was drinking, and people were already kind of uncomfortable with that. And there was also the situation where Jonny was drunk and then sort of sexually harassed a female merch worker on the tour. I believe he did, I don't know, kind of similar to the thing back on the last tour he did with Dance Gavin Dance, where he like flirtatiously touched that guy in Suicide Silence, and then he pulled out his knee because he was stretching. I think it was a thing similar to that, where he like touched her or grabbed her in some way. It might have been more, I don't know, but from what I understand from just reading articles about this, he was drunk and like touched her in some way that made her feel uncomfortable. And then there were other rumors of the band spilling sewage from their bus. The rest of it, besides those things, besides Jonny drinking and sexually harassing this merch girl, everything else was just kind of rumors, and as you can see, it's kind of he said, she said shit. But the fact of the matter is, the people on the Warped Tour were uncomfortable because Jonny was drinking and touching this merch girl in a weird way, which is bad, and they had a town hall meeting and got voted off. And then, of course, Jonny and Slaves, well, particularly Jonny, tried to, take the high road and be like, we didn't leave the tour because we got voted off. No, we made our decision to leave, which, I mean, Jonny is obviously a very prideful man, and does not like to admit defeat, even when shit like this is going on. I've never heard about anything like this happening with any other Warped Tour band. I'm sure it has, but obviously it's never been this publicized. So anyway, this caused quite a bit of, buzz and controversy in the scene, because Jonny, who up until this point had been at least portraying to the public that he was a new version of himself, and he, was righting his wrongs and from the past, and he was sober, and sort of turning over a new leaf. This kind of controversy coming out kind of shows the opposite a little bit. Them getting voted off of Warped Tour, and Jonny still doing boneheaded things. It didn't really look good for him, and didn't really help his reputation at the time, or Slaves' reputation. And of course, people weren't completely on board with the idea that Jonny was sober or sticking to any sort of program, or that the band was helping him really, because I don't know, this whole thing just seemed kind of just a little messy, a little sketchy, you know what I mean? Anyways, following this whole Warped Tour scandal, the band did do some touring in the fall, And then fast forward to the next year, on March 30th of 2016, founding guitarist and main songwriter up until that point of Slaves, Alex Lyman, announced that he would be leaving the band. And drummer Ty Wright, who had been there since the beginning, also announced that he would be leaving too shortly thereafter that. Ty Wright cited issues within the band as his reason for leaving. And on April 10th of 2016, Slaves actually announced that they would be breaking up. So, following Slaves announcing their apparent breakup, about a month later in April of 2016, Jonny posted an open letter to his fans on his Facebook page where he basically came clean that he was still struggling with addiction issues. The letter reads as follows, quote, "To all my faithful fans, it's time I set the record straight. Please know this is me talking, not a publicist, not a manager, it's just me. For years, I have fought hard to escape my past and everything that comes with it. I have continually gotten clean and then fallen right back into the same ruts. As most of you are aware, I have a problem. I am an addict. I have entered rehab twice. I have sought help multiple times. It just keeps happening. My choices and my struggles have cost me many things, relationships, loved ones, friends, bands, and much more. For letting any of you down, I'm truly sorry. This is an open letter to everyone to let you know I'm struggling. No excuses. I want you, the fans, to know that I'm doing my best to get through these current tours. I will try my best to stay clean and finish these. To help me get back on track, I am going back on the medicine I was on for 4 years that helped me stay clean. After the US solo tour and the European Slaves dates with select members, I am going to take some time and get the help I really need. I am also going to take money from the solo tour to put towards the help I need. I know it's not optimal for my health to be out on the road, but I really want to finish these tours for you guys. I am going to be working on new solo material with Kyle Lucas. Colin Vieira and I will eventually continue on as Slaves, and there will be more good news to come. Thank you for staying with me all these years. You guys are what keep me going. Love, Jonny." Alright, so that was interesting. Now, that letter was, albeit kind of vague. He wasn't really specific on, if he was using at that current moment or what specific times he had been using or had fallen back into it, or I did this because I was using, or I was using during this time, but I guess it doesn't really matter because at the end of the day, he is kind of transparent in this letter and ultimately basically just admits, yeah, I'm still struggling with these problems. He's basically saying I haven't been completely sober lately. I've still been dealing with these heroin problems, and he just wanted people to know that, which is admirable. At least he's being honest about it, even though it is vague. Also, at the end of this letter, he basically hints at the fact that, I guess Slaves have not broken up, and him and Colin, the longtime bass player, are planning to continue on as Slaves, so that's interesting news. About a month after this open letter was released onto the internet in May of 2016, Jonny kind of went further into the Slaves updates and announced on his Facebook that Slaves did not actually break up and were just going through some difficult times. Later that year in 2016, Slaves then did regroup as a three-piece with Jonny on vocals, obviously, Colin Vieira on bass, and guitarist Weston Richmond, also part of the group, who had been playing guitar for them since around 2015, around before Routine Breathing came out. Following this regrouping, they spent the rest of 2016 as well as 2017 getting back out onto the road, touring, I guess trying to build their reputation up to, a place where not so controversial, and getting ready for their next record. So, things were looking good for them around this time, kind of starting from the ground up again, turning over a new leaf, as it were, rebuilding from the ashes and building towards a solid place in the scene for the band Slaves, and, shedding themselves of their past controversies. Things were looking good until the fall of 2017 had rolled around, and it's like clockwork. Remember how I was saying earlier about how every 2 years or so there's another big Jonny Craig scandal? Well, that's exactly what happened this time yet again. The fall of 2017 rolled around, and get ready, another Jonny Craig scandal about almost exactly 2 years or so since the last one. So, about 3 months or so before the third Slaves album was scheduled to be released, Artery Recordings, the record label that Slaves had been signed to since they had formed, announced the following on Twitter. Quote, "Artery Recordings has decided to part ways with Slaves. This was on November 17th of 2017. This news of Slaves being dropped from their record label came following a series of varying assault and abuse allegations made against Jonny on the internet. Several women, many of them being ex-girlfriends of Jonny, were brave enough to come forward on Twitter and share their past experiences with Jonny, describing numerous scenarios where he had been aggressive and abusive towards them. Now, before I show these tweets and read them, I do want to give a content warning right now. If you are easily triggered by descriptions of sexual assault or domestic violence, please skip ahead a couple minutes because the events that these tweets describe are very graphic. So, one of Jonny's ex-girlfriends, named Amanda, posted this on Twitter. Hey, as long as we're on the topic of pedophiles and predators in the scene, to which she linked to some screenshots of a girl calling Jonny out on Twitter for asking for nude photos of her when she was 16 and he was 27, and Jonny is just kind of acting like an asshole back in response. Another one of Jonny's exes, named Elizabeth, tweeted the following. So why does my ex-boyfriend still have any kind of career? He has done the worst to me and countless other girls. Why hasn't the music scene fucking exiled him yet? Do his victims not matter? Jonny Craig held me down on a bed and jokingly tried to shoot me up. I was screaming and crying. All he did was laugh. Imagine being choked up against the wall by your boyfriend because you didn't want to have sex, but it's okay because he was high. He didn't mean it. Another ex-girlfriend of his named Chelsea also tweeted the following. I wish people would listen. I wish people would accept that their idols are, in fact, monsters. I wish I could open up about the truth. I wish people understood the pain and pure anger I have built up. I wish people would listen. Followed by throwing my things into the hallway, telling me to get out of his Sacramento home and having me sleep in at Chris the Asian's room. No motive, just high. Holes in our bedroom walls from him stabbing the wall with a knife, as well as the picture on the wall was sliced in half. Yes, he can rape me, hold a knife to my neck, kick me out of his house and pretend it never happened. Then has the audacity to accuse me and you of fucking. Super great guy. I refuse to stay silent until something is done. No matter how much shit we have gone through with drama, me, Elizabeth, and Amanda all agree that he must be stopped. If us coming together and speaking up isn't a good enough idea of how broken we are, what is? Absolutely horrible. My heart goes out to all of those women, and yeah, that's disgusting. No one should have to deal with that. About a month or two later, in January of 2018, Jonny released a statement about his side of things where he basically just said, I've never raped or sexually assaulted anybody. I'm not going to read this whole statement because here it is if you want to pause and read it. But he's basically just like, nah, I've had problems in my relationships, sure, but I've never, I've never raped or assaulted anybody. So that was his response. It is what it is, I guess. I believe the women on this one, but, alright, Jonny. Anyway, somehow, following these allegations, Slaves just continued on as normal. They found a new record label to release their next record. SBG Records released their third album, Beautiful Death, on February 16th of 2018, so literally just a month after Jonny's, statement following these allegations. Slaves were just continuing on, and yeah, as far as this third Slaves album, I guess it's better than the last two. There's a couple songs that I like on this one, like how I was saying earlier, there's always like a couple Slave songs on every record that I enjoy. I like the song True Colors, great chorus. Also the song Warning from My Demons is pretty cool. Overall, this record is less Warped Tour scene sounding than their previous two albums. It's a little bit less one-dimensional. There's a little bit more going on, more musical exploration. It's a good progression from the last one, but overall, the taste in my mouth has been so soured by Jonny at this point that, I can't even, really try to give any sort of, real review of this album, you know what I mean? I guess musically they evolved and, a lot of people really liked this album, you know what I mean? This album actually got really good reviews, even by, people like me who weren't haven't really been into Slaves. Like, I noticed a lot of people were sort of feeling this album and were like, yeah, this is like the best stuff Jonny has done since back when he was in Dance Gavin Dance. So, you know, that's good. But like I said, following those assault allegations against him and hearing from his exes on Twitter, I can't sit down and vibe to this album, you know what I mean? So I don't know. So anyways, throughout the Beautiful Death era of the band started touring in 2018, and around the time of the release of that album, Jonny had gotten into a relationship with a popular YouTuber, a young 20 or so year old girl named Nicole Dean, who had found success on YouTube by making videos showing her pets and her animals. She's like an animal YouTuber or something along those lines. And she was very popular at the time, and she still is. She has like almost 2 million subscribers right now or something like that. Either way, she apparently grew up loving Jonny's music. She's about the same age as me, actually. I looked it up. I'm actually about 2 months older than her, which is interesting. But she, much like myself, grew up loving Jonny's music. She looked up to Jonny. Somehow her and Jonny connected and began dating each other around mid to late 2017, so around the time that Slaves were recording the Beautiful Death album, presumably, and also the time that those accusations came out on the internet. Now, throughout the time that she was dating Jonny, her fans and her audience on YouTube had started noticing that she started not really seeming like herself anymore on her videos. Something about her behavior and the way she came off just started seeming a little bit off, and rumors started to spread, and throughout 2018, people started suspecting that her and Jonny were using drugs together, namely the drug that Jonny was most historically associated with, which was heroin. Finally, on January 24th of 2019, those rumors had been somewhat confirmed when the news broke that Slaves had parted ways with Jonny as their vocalist, and they were moving on without him, due to him relapsing on drugs. On that day, the band released this statement to their Facebook page. "To whom it may concern, it's with a heavy heart that we announce that Jonny Craig has been removed from the band Slaves. We all have struggles in our daily life, but for some, those struggles are personally and physically dangerous. It is no secret that Jonny has battled with addiction in his personal life. Sometimes those battles are won and most recently lost. It's also unfair for a band to rely on someone who just can't rely on themselves. Addiction is a disease, and we hope Jonny gets the help that he needs. Unfortunately, Jonny chose his addiction over the band and left them high and dry while checking in for their international flight while he boarded a plane back home. As a band, we've worked too hard to stop now. Fans that have been touched by our music, everyone that has enjoyed our songs, to anyone that has met us as a band, we will continue on with Slaves. Unfortunately, due to this, we are forced to cancel our Bristol, UK show tonight. Never fear. Thankfully, our good friend Matt McAndrew, who you'd recognize from The Voice, will be filling in on all remaining England and European dates to help us in this trying time. We also have some exciting news on the future of Slaves. We think you will be excited. Thank you for your continued support." So Jonny was no longer in the band Slaves. He had relapsed. The guys in Slaves were aware of this and decided, we can't work with this guy anymore. It's been, too much trouble with Jonny for too many years. They had to move on without him. As with him getting, ejected from Emarosa back in the day, and Dance Gavin Dance back in the day, as I've stated in this video, same thing with those situations. I understand, where Slaves are coming from. If I were in the band, I would have done the same thing. Anyways, finally, several months later after this, on August 18th of 2019 to be exact, Taylor, who was no longer in a relationship with Jonny at that point and had spent some time in rehab and was working on her sobriety at that point as well, uploaded a video to her YouTube channel which was called "I'm a Heroin Addict, The Truth About Everything." In this video, she essentially went into detail on everything that had gone on in her life over the course of the last couple years relating to her drug use, and obviously, as you can tell by the title, she came clean that she had become addicted to heroin. Now, in this video, although people knew that she had been dating Jonny, she actually kept his name out of it and just referred to him as my boyfriend or my ex-boyfriend, and she encouraged people not to go after him or attack him because of the contents of this video. But basically, the basic rundown of her story in this video is that she got together with Jonny, they started dating. She had never used heroin before, but she did have some drug issues before at the time, some alcoholism and coke use, but it wasn't like crazy out of control by any means. Jonny, however, had informed her that he had been a heroin addict for the last 10 years, but she was under the impression that he was clean at the time, aside for some drinking as well as smoking weed on his part. But basically, as it turned out, Jonny was not clean, and he was still using heroin behind her back and trying to hide it from her by just saying, you know, he would show up high and he would be like, oh no, I just smoked weed, it was just weed. But she instinctively knew that it was something more than that. There was something, you know, something more up with him than what just weed does to you. Basically, long story short, one night she caught him shooting up heroin in their house. She freaked out, begged him to go to rehab and get clean. She thought that he was going to agree to this, but instead of him saying, yes, I'll go to rehab, like she thought or like she wanted, he basically said, let's you and me finish this heroin that I have together. I'll shoot you up, we'll have an amazing high together, we'll watch a movie, it will feel amazing, and then after tonight we'll get clean together and never have to use drugs again. Now, keep in mind, she had never done heroin before, and Jonny knew this. That's so fucked up. That's so evil. Long story short, he talked her into it in a manipulative way. He knew with the power dynamic he had over her, he knew how to manipulate her and how to get to her, and it worked. He talked her into it, and she tried it. He shot heroin into her veins, and of course that wasn't the only time they did it. Heroin, as you know, is extremely addictive, one of the most addictive drugs out there, and she got very highly addicted to heroin following this because of him and started using it all the time. They were using it together, and she got very sick. And this was definitely part of Jonny's master plan, to get her addicted to heroin, so she would stop bugging him about how she wanted him to get clean, so he wouldn't have to, you know, keep hiding it from her. The way I see it, it was his intention to turn her into a junkie so that they would do it together. That was 100% his intention, his plan, and that's an incredibly evil and fucking scummy thing to do. That's horrible. Keep in mind, Jonny was around 30 or so at this time, maybe 31, 32. Taylor was around 20 or 21. Big age difference, big power dynamic. She grew up loving his music, idolizing him. You know, it's all bad. And it's pretty clear, it's pretty evident that Jonny has definitely done this to other people too. Taylor has said that other people in Jonny's life have reached out to her telling her that Jonny had in fact gotten them into heroin as well. So just that makes me sick. That's horrible, man. Another long story short, Taylor was addicted to heroin and was using for a while, and eventually her mom had intervened and got her to go to rehab. She went to rehab and got clean, and while she was in rehab, she cut ties off with Jonny. This was in the summer of 2019, and she posted this YouTube video after she got out of rehab and had been sober for a little bit in August of 2019. So to put this into perspective timeline-wise, Taylor and Jonny started dating around the mid to latter half of 2017. He got her hooked on heroin in the earlier half of 2018. So Right as Slaves was like releasing the Beautiful Death album, and when she went to rehab, got sober, and got away from Jonny was in the summer of 2019, about a half a year after Jonny got kicked out of Slaves. And obviously, if you want to hear her whole story from her mouth, her words, you can go watch that video on her channel. It's very interesting. Also, a few months after the release of Taylor Nicole Dean's first video describing her experience getting addicted to heroin, she actually uploaded another video on December 31st of 2019, New Year's Eve, called My Experience with My Ex. He's Dangerous. This video was similar to the first one, except this time around, instead of just describing her own experiences with drugs, she's talking about her horrible experience dating Jonny Craig and how he mistreated and abused her, and she talks in great detail. Oh, and this time, instead of keeping his identity hidden and not saying his name like the last video, she's very open in this video about the fact that, yes, she's talking about Jonny Craig. She says his name openly. No hiding that anymore. She goes into detail about how horrible he was to her. Some examples of this include the following. So there was one instance where Jonny had come up to Taylor and told her that he was so happy that Taylor had come along into his life because he had been previously talking to a girl who had, in his eyes, the most perfect, beautiful body in the world, and the perfect personality, and they meshed well on every level, apparently. But he said that they couldn't be together because she was 17 years old, and that would cause too many complications. So Jonny told Taylor that he was so thankful that Taylor had come into his life so he didn't have to be hung up on this 17-year-old anymore. Keep in mind, Jonny was about 31 years old during this time. That's gross. Taylor cried after that and said she felt disgusted. Apparently, a few hours later in that same night, according to Taylor, Jonny had apparently duct taped her hands together and her feet together and put duct tape on her mouth, and he said to her, "Since everyone thinks I'm a rapist, I might as well be one." He got on top of her, she started sobbing because this comment was disturbing. He got off of her and told her that it was just a joke, and proceeded to get mad at her for not knowing that it was a joke. And he was also high on heroin this whole time. Horrible. He was very verbally abusive and scary, especially when he was high. He would pace around the house yelling and acting crazy and being rude to her. Every time it would be like this, he would wake up the next day sober and apologize to her and say he was just high and going through a hard time. Always using his rough childhood and his feelings of neglect that he felt when he was young and the unresolved trauma that he went through as a child and his rough past as an excuse for his shitty actions to try to make her feel bad for him and put the attention on his woes as opposed to the fact that he was getting high and verbally abusing her and sexually abusing her and acting crazy and scary all the time, which was deeply affecting Taylor. He was essentially gaslighting her by being like, no, this isn't the thing that you should be upset about. It's not that I'm acting crazy. You should feel bad for me because I'm using, all of my past stuff and hardships that I've gone through as an excuse. Just toxic behavior overall. He also apparently physically threw her into a refrigerator one time to the point where it knocked the refrigerator back and she fell on the floor. He then went to bed and she started crying and he told her to shut up and that he's trying to sleep. Just gross shit that he was doing to her. She goes into a lot more detail about him just being generally shitty and abusive and manipulative towards her and just treating her like shit, gaslighting her, with many other scenarios that she gets into in her video, like the ones that I had just mentioned. So obviously you can go watch that video if you want the whole story from her mouth. Like I said, it's a lot of stuff and it's all very fucked up and sickening. It definitely makes you see Jonny in a new light, in a different light, because of course we already know about all the fucked up things he's done in the past that have been at least reported publicly, you know what I mean? We know about his public persona, but when you hear from Taylor what he's really like behind closed doors in his private life and how poorly he treats people, especially women, and what a truly disgusting human being he can be and how truly fucked up he is, and his other exes too that have also come forward with stories on the internet and whatnot. It's really eye-opening, and it shows you what kind of guy he really is. For me, it makes me really realize that I kind of have zero empathy for the guy because, oh sure, he's had a hard life, he's had a hard childhood, he deals with hard drug addiction, that's all true, but you stop feeling bad for someone, for anyone, about those things when they've repeated the same shitty actions over and over and over and over again for years and fucked over so many people and show time and time again again that they aren't learning from their actions, and they really aren't trying to be a better person. That's Jonny. This Taylor Nicole Dean shit, this was recent. You know what I mean? There have been so many opportunities for him to, you know, so many people have been giving him second chances over the years and have been, you know, passing off his behavior as, oh, it's just Jonny, he deals with addiction, this, that, whatever, but he's not changing. He's not taking it seriously. It would be a different story if he had been spending the last decade actively trying to change, being honest about his behavior, you know, actually there was a brief moment back in 2012 when he like went to rehab and there was that AP story on him or whatever, but that did not last very long, and before long he was back to the same old shit, and it's been the same old shit over and over and over again, and it's stayed just as bad as it always has been since back when in his first stint in Dance Gavin Dance. You know what I mean? It shows that he doesn't, to me that shows that he doesn't care. He doesn't take this seriously. He lacks empathy for other people, and he doesn't even care about what a piece of shit he acts towards other people, you know? Like I said, for me, the Taylor Nicole Dean situation shows that after all these years and all these scandals, Jonny, who is now 34 years old at the time that I'm filming this, really has not changed and is still running around acting like a scumbag all these years later. For me, it's truly disappointing as well as kind of disgusting. Taylor had also commented on the fact that he has acted shitty and abusive and manipulative to so many other women in the past, and through the past like decade, he's constantly gone through a cycle of being in a relationship where he treats the girl horribly, they break up, Jonny just leaves the girl and she's all fucked up and traumatized from the relationship, and then every time Jonny will immediately jump into a new relationship and tell the world, oh, my ex is just crazy, she's a mess, don't listen to her, she doesn't know what she's talking about, she's crazy, but look at my new relationship, look at how happy we are, you know what I mean? Focus on this new thing, don't focus on that old thing, not my crazy ex, focus on this new relationship. But then his new relationship will break up, you know, she'll repeat cycle. She'll come out with stories about how Jonny mistreated her, and he'll do the same thing. Oh, don't believe my crazy ex. New relationship. And it's happened again after Taylor. He's with a new girl now, and guess what? They have a fucking baby. They have a kid. And for me, you know, I just don't think that Jonny is in a place where he is safe to be around a child and raising a young child. I really don't think so. I don't believe a word out of that guy's mouth. He says he's clean now, but he's been saying he's clean, you know, for the last 10 years, and like every time it turns out to not be true. He's been going through these same cycles with women and treating women poorly for years, and nothing had changed in every single relationship. So I highly doubt that his current relationship and his current situation is any different than it was with Taylor, than it was with Chelsea, than it was with Elizabeth, than it was with Amanda. I highly doubt it, because he hasn't taken any time for himself. He jumped into his current relationship immediately after Taylor went to rehab and they broke up. So it's not like this dude, you know, took some time for himself. He hasn't spent any time in rehab recently. I think he's dangerous. I think he's a danger to people, and I don't think that he should still be out there trying to be like a musician at this point. He had a solo EP that came out earlier this year. You know, he's back on his solo R&B shit. It was called Find Your Home. It seems to me like while Jonny is pursuing a music career, I don't think that life is good for him. I literally think that he needs to like take a step back, not be a famous musician guy with a bunch of people supporting him. Because that's another thing. It's people keep giving him passes for this shit. He still has a very large fan base, his supporters say that all these women are crazy and that this is all bullshit and that Jonny's a good guy. I don't know how you could still be riding for this man after all this shit. You know, and it's not just the fans' fault either. Like, over the years, there have been so many record labels and promoters and, you know, music publications that have constantly also supported Jonny and turned a blind eye to, the people he's abused and mistreated just to kind of make a quick buck because people like his voice or whatever. There have been, people in his corner who have helped out his career throughout the years, but, he's burned a lot of bridges. There are a lot of labels and a lot of people just in the industry who do not want to work with him. I think the industry at large pretty much wants nothing to do with Jonny. Also, I do want to say, and this has been confirmed by Taylor Nicole Dean on Twitter, that Jonny makes no royalties from Dance Gavin Dance or Emarosa, and possibly also the first couple Slaves albums either. I don't know if it's due to just burn bridges, or I don't know what the legalities of it are, but it has been confirmed that he makes no money on Dance Gavin Dance or Emarosa music. So if you, if you still want to go back and listen to that old stuff, you don't, like on Spotify, you don't have to worry because you're not putting any money in Jonny's pocket. So if you feel guilt about it, I know it's weird because for me, I still listen to that stuff and I enjoy it, and it's weird for me because I know that I don't like Jonny as a person. I don't support him. I don't want to actively support him in any way, but those are still records that, hold very personal meaning for me. That's a whole other conversation, the, separating the art from the artist kind of thing. Typically, I don't separate the art from the artist. I don't think that's, I don't know, that's not my game. But for Emarosa and Dance Gavin Dance, it's like, look, Dance Gavin Dance, I love Dance Gavin Dance as a band. I don't support Jonny, but I love Will Swan, I love Matt Mingus, I love like those records. You know what I mean? There's like 5 or 6 other dudes in that band who aren't pieces of shit, and same thing with Emarosa. So I don't know. That's a whole other conversation, though. But if you want to still listen to that old shit on Spotify, you're not supporting Jonny. But anyway, back to the matter at hand. I mean, I think if he is gonna raise this kid, he needs to take a step back, get real help, be a real adult for the first time in his life, and because he's still just being this cocky guy on Instagram and, oh, fuck the haters, you look at me in my perfect life. It's like, dude, you're 34. I don't think you're safe to be around this kid if you're still doing the same shit that you've been doing for years. And it's scary, I think Jonny really needs to take the time now to get real help, take a step back, maybe work like a normal job, and just grow up. Be an adult, you know what I mean? Realize his faults, put his pride down a little bit. But it almost feels like a lost cause because people have been saying that about Jonny since 2011. And that's what I'm saying. It hasn't happened. Jonny will try to make you think that he's growing up and that he's changing and all this, but every couple years there's a new Jonny Craig scandal, and it turns out that everything that Jonny told you about how he's clean and how he's grown and turned over a new leaf, it always turns out to be bullshit every time. Or when there are small glimpses of him trying to change, he always just goes right back into the negative shit. So it's like, at a certain point, you can't keep, even if you want someone to win, even if you want someone to get better, you can't keep having empathy for them and keep riding for them when it's just the same bullshit over and over again, and it's clear that they're not learning and growing from it. So it's a bummer, man. It's a real bummer. I loved Jonny Craig's music in high school. As I've stated over and over again, I found his career really fascinating. I will, I don't actively support him, but I'll always be interested to see where he goes as a person and as an artist from here. But unfortunately, due to everything we've seen from him before, I don't have very high hopes for his life or where he's going at all. And it sucks. And I wish I could end this video off on a happier note, but I can't. Because, like I said, I don't think that he's a good guy, and I think he's dangerous, and I think he needs to be an adult for the first time in his life, or else I worry for this child that is in his life, genuinely. So that's that, y'all. Like I said, wish I could end this off on a happier note, but, fuck. I hope y'all are having a good day. Thank you all for watching this video if you're here at the end. This has been your man Julian, aka the Cozy Representative. Thank you for taking this wild and crazy journey with me. We'll see what happens to Jonny Craig. I hope nothing but the best, honestly, for the current woman that he's with and his current child. I hope that everything ends up safe for them in whatever way that might mean. And, you know, just as a human to human level, I hope that Jonny ends up fine. You know what I mean? I hope that he does get the help that he needs and you know, eventually has some sort of redemption arc or whatever, or, you know, like, I don't want him to just die in a ditch, you know what I mean? I hope he finds peace one day and all that, but, you know, until he makes a real change and shows that he's made a real change, I can't support the guy, and I can't defend the guy. And I hope that his family is safe, and I hope the best for his child. Anyways, yeah, like I said, it's been Julian, the Cozy Representative. Thank you all so much for taking this journey with me. I hope you all have a beautiful day. I will see you next time. My next video will definitely be a more positive topic. So stay tuned. I hope you all are well. Stay safe. Have a good night. Love you. Goodbye.